Joanne. So as you shared earlier, you are the author of Successful Cannapreneur, a book that guides those who want to enter the cannabis industry and educates them on building compliant cannabis companies. What are 4 key takeaways from this book on entering the industry that you think our audience should be aware of?
Thank you. So the book essentially, like I said earlier, is my journey. And I think I had a pretty unique journey because I was in the Navy. I came out, I had an accident while I was in the military, and cannabis essentially saved my life. And having that realization, then I realized everything that I knew about the plant was fake news, essentially. So I started doing my research to answer your question. Do your research as far as what you want to do in the industry. One of the things that I discussed in the book is, what do you bring to the table? Because this industry is vast. I mean, there's so much work to do, and I feel like there's space for all of us, but you will fit in best where you can bring something to the table, especially if you're starting out as, with no experience. And I think in this space, being creative, knowing exactly what you want to do, and then going that extra mile gets you more than maybe knowing too much about plants or anything like that. Because the cannabis plant, it can be grown in so many different media. It can be utilized for so many different purposes with respect to wellness. And then you have the business aspect, which she explained that extremely well, in how you have to pretty much wear a lot of different hats when you have a brand, when you're trying to build a business. What the other thing too is, you have to get creative. This industry is about jumping through fire hoops, essentially. It's super dynamic. Like she said, the laws change from one day to the next, and you might have to lose money to be able to be compliant, and then start out. Pretty much you have no choice when the law changes. So at that point is not becoming disappointed and entertaining the fact that you have to be solution-based. You have to have a solution-based mindset. So that's the other one. You have to have a solution-based mindset because I would say when you're an entrepreneur, if you're a professional in an industry that changes so drastically like the cannabis does, you have to understand that challenge is not the end of the world. It's just we need to figure it out and keep going. A lot of the times, you have to start from scratch. So don't be discouraged, but just this is not for the faint of heart. But there's so much opportunity, so much need, and a lot of those challenges, if you really look deep down, they can be opportunities. So that's what I got.
It really goes back to, it's all about the pivot. I think we've all pivoted, and so probably even multiple times a day sometimes. I was just curious. We can ask that. So before we go into the next question, we're just a quick audience question. Raise your hand if you are already in the industry and are you already in the industry and have a job? No. Are you? Okay. Are you looking for a job and not in the cannabis industry yet? Okay. Perfect. And starting a business in the industry. Awesome. There's about a bitch of sorry. A little bit. Put soap in my mouth.
Is anyone considering leaving? Like seriously considering getting out?
Yeah, that's actually
yeah.
That's
probably
real.
a couple that aren't raising their hand.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of people that have left the industry, and it's fine,
It'll pass.
Yeah, exactly. So next up, we're gonna go over to Luna. So as a woman who has been in the cannabis industry for many years as well, you too have seen the ups and downs. You've been to so many cannabis events too. And you've also seen and been a part of a lot of these kind of women in cannabis panels. You know, we can continue to talk about these challenges on what companies need to do, but we also need action to change the narrative for women in cannabis. How can businesses start leading by example?
Yeah, I think that this is such an important point when we over focus on diversity, just as a tokenized, just cross off a box of social responsibility. Really, you know, going back to who are the women in your company? Are they in decision-making positions? Do they have equity? Are their voices being heard at the table? And it's not just to make people feel included. That type of love is lucrative, right? Having women in the space, the data shows that having that, and not just that, all marginalized people, ethnic minorities, people from different backgrounds and cultural experiences, people from different countries, we really need to be dynamic. And if we're in the pivot space, having this consciousness, especially because cannabis is a worldwide thing. We have the ancient Chinese, the Ayurvedics, the Aztecs. It's examples in every one of our cultures. So why not have that? And so I think that that's one of the biggest blessings that iSpire and Jetty both. I was like the first female employee, and all of the hires, obviously legally you can't give preferential treatment based on gender, but you know, really making sure that I was tapping my female community for really good you know, candidates to make sure that we were setting that table so that we knew that the target consumer cared about these things and that the people making the decisions would trickle down their value system. So, you know, for example, with Jetty Extracts, so I've been on the cannabis touching side and the, you know, the ancillary side with iSpire. You know, for the cannabis touching side, storytelling is really important at the retail level, right? So the shelter project was something that we did. We gave away free product to cancer patients, and going in there with the story as a salesperson, and just starting with the why and starting with how much we give away and how much this is impacting people's lives. It wasn't a transactional conversation just trying to move product. It was like, I like working with people that care, and that's on the buyer level, on the B2B level, and then, you know, we all do it in the grocery store. You look at the back of the granola and you read about the history with the grandma's recipe, and we all get warm and fuzzy. Like, why would that be that same literacy and consciousness around organic, fair trade, or artisanal craft products in CPG transfer over to cannabis? So I think women have a sensibility towards that, and having us in those positions making content. We had an issue with, you know, an old school, like an OG legacy concentrate maker who's really well known in the space, so I won't mention them, but they posted something on Instagram that was really tacky, really objectifying, and like just bad content, and it was really cool to see how much the community came together, just being like, you know, this is not what we need to see, this is not moving us to the next level. So I think that us checking each other on that and how we're making sure that why women aren't coming and into the space and why women aren't feeling safe staying in this space is it can be a very misogynistic, very casual sexism kind of environment. So I'm just grateful at iSpire we're able to be ancillary, so we can bank, we can advertise. Obviously we have some issues, but we're able to use our institutional privilege because we do come from the coil manufacturing space as well. So we have over 1 million square feet of manufacturing space in Shenzhen. We can do quick overnight customizations in our domestic warehouse. We're able to offer small businesses, marginalized folks who don't have access to traditional large amounts of capital, or they're living hand to mouth, they're very cash flow dependent. We're able to float them with really favorable terms and give them essentially what's financing if they qualify under what we understand is they're gonna be a really good partner, and they just need a little help right now. And a lot of those end up being folks of color, women, and folks who don't come from any institutional, you know, wealth. So that's something that I've been really proud. You know, I've touched the plant my whole life, so moving into devices seemed like kind of moving away from something that was so important to me. But at iSpire, I actually get to make sure that small companies that are putting so much love and energy into making beautiful oil, amazing terpenes, they're not just putting into hardware that's gonna, you know, crap out on them or pop or burn or leak. And really the impact of that goes all the way down the chain, right? The retailers aren't happy, the consumer's not happy, someone might not ever want to try cannabis again if there's not intentionality. You know, we donate to pollinator projects for bee restoration with the sales of our induction dab device called the Dab. Every holiday season, we do the Social Impact Center, which I believe is based down here. We do a donation on behalf of our clients. We send them a gift and say, hey, we threw down on, basically expungement and, radical prison abolition work with the weed money that we're getting. So them allowing me to be the Chief Impact Officer, which is my title, which I got to, I embodied and created at the same time. It kind of just named what I was already doing. Having people that you would look at as traditional kind of corporate structure see the benefit of having someone who has a feminist studies undergrad and an urban education and social justice master's and credential. Like, what does that have to do with cannabis? But my love and my love for the plant really is something that they see is going to uplift everything, because we all need to win for any of us to win, and that abundance mindset is really what cannabis is about.